It's now my pleasure to welcome Alison Phillips up here to talk to us. Alison's from Staffordshire University, and for those of you who don't know, Staffordshire is the first university to actually move all of their data centre infrastructure and applications up to Microsoft Azure. And I think it was a challenging project. Alison was key in delivering that, and I know a little bit about it, and hopefully she's going to tell you all a bit more about it.
Thank you. Hi everybody, it's great to be here today to tell what I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, is a really good story. Before I do that, I'll just tell you a little bit about Staffordshire as a university and where we are and the change that we're going through. We got a new VC about 12 months ago now, and she's come in, she's from Staffordshire, she's very passionate about the university and is sort of taking forward a huge transformation piece across the university. So every department across the university is being restructured and has been restructured within the last 12 months. So not only did we do this huge project, we also changed the whole of the university. And we're turning a corner now, and we're really seeing things going up. I think it was last week, the Times and Good University guide results came out. We've gone up 29 places. We've been nominated, well, sort of shortlisted for the Most Improved Student Experience for the Times Higher Awards. We are actually number one in employability at Staffordshire in the Della report. So really things are now changing, and we're all sort of, we're a different set of people, different values, got a new VC, and everything's good at Staffordshire. So I'll tell you now about our journey to the cloud. And tell you what we actually did. We moved all of our infrastructure estate and applications into Microsoft Azure Cloud. A couple of applications that are not sort of fit for that kind of thing because of the hardware, because of the nature of what they are, still reside with us, but we no longer have a data centre. We've got 2 network aggregation points at different sides of the campuses, but we don't have that old data centre. And I'll show you a couple of pictures. I'm sure you'll be horrified. So why did we do it? Well, a couple of pictures there, it probably just says why. We had a really aged data centre, it was no longer fit for purpose. We were running massive risks. We had a new finance director came in, and she was responsible for infrastructure as well as finance, and she was very sort of tuned into digital and a cloud first strategy. So prior to her coming in, and this is probably, it's nearly 2 years ago now, but our sort of management, we're looking at, what should we do? We have to do something. We couldn't expand what we've got, so we're looking at a new build really. So it was either build something new or take this brave leap into the cloud. So glad, after 2 years of talking about that, we were really glad she made a decision. She said, yes, okay, that's what you're doing, so get on with it. So we were all, yeah, we've got a decision, and that's what we're going to do. So it was all exciting for about 24 hours, but then when we were like, okay, I think I woke up in the night thinking, and we're going to do this, how's this going to work, sort of thing. So that was how it happened really. We were getting more and more applications coming in. We were talking about bringing everything central into IT. So there were lots and lots of good reasons for doing what we did, and we got a decision. So off we went then on our journey. So how did we do it? We didn't have one of these magic buttons that you could just press and migrate everything to the cloud, because that would have been absolutely fantastic. But we didn't have that. So I think it was probably October time, so not last year, the year before, that we started on a readiness assessment program to see, where we were in the capacity of, could we move to the cloud? Could we take everything we want to do? Could we follow our strategy? So we spent 6 months doing this. It was all a bit scary. There was a partner that came in to work with us. They looked at absolutely everything, and I think they were quite scared as well when they saw it. And this went on for 6 months. There was lots of workshops or network side applications. I was the applications manager at the time, and we had about 25 business applications that we were looking at moving. There was another team who had applications. They'd probably got about 15. And then we knew there was all this stuff out in faculties, all this stuff that was like, ooh, what shall we do with that? So, so all that, we didn't actually unturn all of that at that point, but we knew it was there. So we did our 6 months readiness assessment, and on, it was April time after that, so not April just gone, but the April before, we made a brave decision. We sort of weighed up the pros and cons. We looked at the costs. So what was it going to cost us to build a data centre? What was it going to cost us to go to the cloud? Our readiness assessment said it could be done. So that was it. We were going to start doing it. So we started first week in April. We'd selected a partner by then, so during this 6 months we went through that process. Once we knew we could do it, we started looking at selecting a partner, and we did that. We started off to then sort of come in and we kicked the project off. And we split it into a number of strands, so it was managed by the partner, so their project managed it, and internally we had a set of strands. So there was a network strand, there was an infrastructure strand, and there was an application strand. I was responsible for the application strand, and so I'll probably talk more in that context. But afterwards, if you want to pick up any conversations about this, I can get people sort of on calls, because we've done it. We're doing it with other unis. We're talking to people about this and how we've done it. So what we did first, we started looking at the applications, and we started to tier those applications, because the new world of Azure was obviously different than we've got now, and we were looking at all those risks that we were carrying and how we were going to overcome them. So we tiered the applications, so our main applications, our student records, finance, HR, they were our tier 1 applications that we were going to then have like a sort of gold sort of setup in Azure, so it's like they were highly available and all that kind of good stuff that comes with Azure. So we tiered the applications, and then we started to engage with our software vendors. So some of these guys are here today. I've been talking to Scientia. They work with us to take syllabus up into Azure. We work with Tribal. We work with every single sort of partner for every application that we've got. So that was a huge thing. That was, that was where I came in. So I was managing all that side of it. And we had different kind of reactions from different suppliers. I'll mention one that saw the opportunity there, and we struck a partnership up. So we've got a partnership with a particular vendor, and it went absolutely amazingly. And they now have sort of spoke at their conferences, and they're doing this kind of thing with other HEs as well. So that was the next part. We engaged with the vendors. We got everybody in. We had sort of workshops. We workshopped with every application vendor. We workshopped the how the architecture would be in Azure, because what we had to do was make sure that we were still supportable, so that when the application was in Azure, these vendors would still support us. So it was a really important piece there. It was quite difficult because we didn't know this stuff, it was all new, but we're dependent on our partner who we're working with to do this. But it was great, and some of those relationships have really grown as part of doing this. We had a migration strategy, so that came our partner. So we had a strategy for each and one of every of these applications, and depending on the tiers, they were a little bit different, some easier than others. The first one was the hardest. That was really challenging. But then after that, we were getting really quick at this, like as we're going along, we just, it's becoming kind of second nature. Not with the big ones, but some of the smaller ones it was. We did we drew up proposals, costs, and considerations and approach with each and every one of those vendors, and they were all signed off, so it's all formally signed off, because like I said, it was important to us to stay supported with each of those applications. And then we drew up a migration plan with each of the suppliers of how we were going to get from on-premise to Azure, and we started to plan and timescale everything. So it was a huge amount of time that we spent planning. And I'll go on to lessons learned, but we kind of went back and redid those plans and did it a little bit differently when we'd learned a bit more. And so then we went on, once we got a plan, we worked hand in hand with every vendor to migrate all those applications. In the end, there was 30 plus when we had up like the business applications and like the sort of the client, they were called client technology applications, and some that we brought in from the faculty. So it was quite a massive deal. And just to make things more interesting, we were restructured along the way, and that was a dramatic restructure. There was a guy from Cardiff who we've just been watching. It was a similar thing. It was the Sophia methodology, so it was completely different, but it was also aligned to our new cloud, the world of cloud for us sort of thing. So massively different. We used to do projects within teams. We've now got a project function that I head up. We've got a function for testing. There was a guy talking about testing I don't know if he's in here, but it was like, well, yeah, we're doing that, we're using that technology, so this is just amazing. So we've got a test function, that's great. We no longer have a server team. We have one team that does networks, infrastructure, and platforms. So it's now aligned to our new world. So we did that. So not every one of us, but pretty much most of us were all put at risk when we're doing this really exciting project. So that added to the challenges. Okay, so we did it. We migrated it. We did it in 12 months. Lots of lessons, and I'll come on to those. But, you know, so what did we achieve? We achieved an absolute load. I could go on for ages, really. But really importantly, we achieved the resilience. We'd been audited on risk prior to doing this project. It was part of our restructure. And you know, as part of this restructure, it took out our whole senior management. So it was like, us team managers are like, oh, right, you're in charge kind of thing. It was like, okay. But, you know, and we were carrying those risks. So this project has overcome that. We've now got all our Tier 1 applications. There's more than that, but our Tier 1 applications are highly available over 2 data centres. We've done that with some more of our applications. We've got a scalable solution for our applications. Just thinking back to clearing, I'm in a different world now, so I'm managing projects. Clearing was mine. I was a little bit worried. The year before, we'd had a few problems, our student record system with performance. So, you know, we've got this capability now. We just turned up the dial and everything was fine. So clearing was just from an IT perspective, it just went like a dream. So we're taking advantage of that now. We upgraded a lot of our databases and associated software. When we did our readiness, you know, it was quite scary to realise that we were out of support on some of our applications. So we took that opportunity to do that. And we're the first UK university to do this. And what we did, and what is, you know, is a great thing that we did, is we reduced our carbon footprints because that was one of our, one of the things we wanted to do in a university, and this really has done it. Difficult to measure, but we can see, and from some of the stats that we've got, we can see that we've done that. As well, we unturned a number of stones, so we started looking at, okay, we're putting all this stuff in Azure, but then we've got people, I wouldn't say they've got things under the desks, but it's that kind of mentality. There was like some staff out in faculties with their own servers, so we kind of did that as well. So we also centralised all of that. We brought all these applications. I'll never forget sitting in a room with all these guys, and it was like, oh, well, we've got this, and it does the same job as Blackboard, really. It was like, why are you doing that? So we pulled all that in as well, just because we like to challenge. We pulled all that in. It became part of our restructure. Some of those guys are now working in digital services, and we're doing that. We still have a few specialists out there, but all of that IT and infrastructure is now in Azure. Okay, so we've got new teams, complementary to our strategy. We've got a fully documented architecture. This is done by our partners, which was brilliant for us. We've got everything now, it's all documented, so we can just quickly pick that up and sort of learn as well, because a lot of the time, you know, we were just concentrating and getting everything into Azure. Massive task to do that, but we've got that documentation there to just pick up and use. We've decommissioned a lot of old infrastructure and legacy applications, so that was another thing we did. The thing that with the faculty stuff that we found out, those systems out there, we've got all our faculties now using the systems that they should be. We've had to wait for like the cycle of the new academic year to get them off there. So we've still got a bit now to decommission, before we can fully say it's all gone. And we hit our timescales. We migrated 30 plus applications in 1 year. Okay. This slide could have gone on for ages, so what we learned, but the most key thing that we learned was our timescales were really aggressive. 12 months, if we look back now, if we knew what we knew now, doing it in 12 months wouldn't have been so bad, but we were all new to this, and things came along the way that we couldn't help. We got delays, but really, and the window shrunk. We got about 6 months really when we were properly when Express Route was up there and we were properly migrating our applications. So that was a big lessons learned. And that was, the big success of this was about the power of teams and what you can actually do in a short space of time with great teams that were all at risk, you know, all sort of worried they might not have a job in another 6 months' time. But we did it, and we did it in these aggressive timescales. So that's probably a lesson learned. Maybe not, you know, maybe not so aggressive with your timescales. We learnt a lot about program management. I particularly did. I'm now heading up the project function at Staffordshire, so I learnt tons about program management. Some good, some bad, but lots and lots to learn there. One thing to learn, which was really important to us, and this is when we changed our migration plan, was to align. We kind of hadn't aligned our applications we hadn't lined them together, the ones that were like tightly coupled sort of thing, and we realised, and now when I look back I think I was a bit stupid really, but at the time we were looking at taking some of our big systems and we hadn't thought about taking our integration bus with it, you know, at the same time, and that was probably a bit naive, but sort of halfway through the project we learnt that and we changed and we moved things in families so that we get the best performance as we were moving them into Azure. We learnt the importance of testing. We didn't have a test function at the university, and we've got one now. Our partners brought in test managers and all that kind of stuff. We kind of realised we need this, and not just because we're moving to Azure, but you know, in a world that we want to be without risk and be a better university and more resilient, we need a test function, and we've got one now, and it's working really well. We learnt the importance of benchmarking. We did some benchmarking. It could have been better, but we know now how important that was. And the big lesson was the first migration takes longer because we'd taken so long to do our first one, because we're getting all the infrastructure stood up, we're getting our network in place, getting ExpressRoute there. So when we actually first started, and I think the big one was sort of September last year, and we got till April, it was like, ooh, this ain't going to work. But you know, once we'd done that first one, done the big one, and then started to do others, we were really getting quick. Some of them were smaller. So that was a piece of learning. And the big one, as I say, it's just amazing what great teams can achieve together to reach a goal. Okay, so what's next for us? We're in our world of Azure. It's all great. We did it really quickly. Some of the things that we didn't manage to do as much as we'd like to was the training side of it, and that's the thing that always slips. We were learning, so we did a whole sort of knowledge sharing as we were migrating these applications into Azure, working with our partners. So we did a lot of learning then, but it's now about, now we're in Azure, we're looking at how we're managing and monitoring that, because there's a new world of consumption for us. We've got a budget. We had a budget to do the project, and we've got a budget now for our consumption. And when you move from a world of data centres, when you've got everything switched on all the time, it's about learning about this new world. So we take down our test servers, we take down our dev servers at night, and it was just doing that. So we've been doing quite a bit of work. We were kind of skyrocketing with our consumption, but now we're sort of levelling and coming towards our target, so that's all good. And that's part of our optimization project. It's a lot about consumption, but it's also about, we've got all these new tools and technologies available to us, and it's about embracing that. So we're looking at how we embrace that, how we embed that into our new structures, because we're a different team now and people are doing different jobs. It's really quite exciting. There's a lot of change, and we've got a lot of work to do some embedding, just get our foundations right, and then we'll go off and do some more exciting projects. Maybe not one as this big, but I'm sure there's lots more coming, and after doing that, nothing ever will seem quite as difficult. So really, that's about it, and I'm going to open it up to questions. I've put my details on there because, yeah, we can have some questions, but we've been doing some like conference calls with other universities, which have been really good, just sort of sharing the experiences, and quite happy to do that. If anybody wants to get in touch and have a conference call with us, and I can get the other guys on there, the guys who did all the network piece, and just others that were involved in it, all the security side of it as well. So, okay, so questions.
How did the organisation manage the transition between CapEx to OpEx spend? Is that a challenge?
I think It was. So we've got a finite budget. I don't know if I'm going to answer your question right here, but it was on capital. So we had a capital project, and then we've got an estimated sort of where we'd be with consumption. Is that what you're asking? Sort of thing. So that was part of our business case. Yeah, we that was our business case. We didn't get it right. We were not madly wrong, but we were like a little bit over budget, and then we set ourselves a budget for when we went into sort of BAU kind of thing, and I mentioned like with skyrocketing, we're kind of bringing it down. So it was estimated, and it is quite challenging, if that answers your question. Okay? Yeah.
So your partner in helping move this, you said you looked at a whole bunch of partners. I think it covers your write-up. It says you moved on to 31 applications. It says you moved on to 31 applications in addition to the 30 you mentioned that were close to yourself. What was the biggest piece of work? You talked about the readiness stage, but surely there must have been an aspect of mapping your network into Azure as well. Do you recall exactly how much time that took and what difficulties you had?
Yeah. I can't go into big detail about that because I was like the applications person, but we took the opportunity to redesign our network sort of thing. So those two strands overlapped. So my colleague Emily was doing the network piece, I was doing the applications piece, and we had to line the two up so that when we could sort of actually start and do these migrations. So we did, because there was lots of things, and those were a lot of benefits that we got because we'd had that opportunity to, you know, we hadn't had a lot of investment in networks and infrastructure over many years sort of thing, so this was an opportunity to put all that right, and this is some of where we kind of went over budget really, but having come out the other side, it was good to do the things that we've done because we have got a really sort of good network now. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, thanks. But am I reading too much? Are you saying this is probably the first time you had an honest conversation between applications and infrastructure?
It's what, sorry?
The first time you had an honest conversation between applications and infrastructure?
An honest conversation between us? No, we are like quite close sort of thing, but I don't know their world as like, kind of, I know enough that I need to know about it, and they really don't know our world. But yeah, I think if that's where you're going with it, yeah, we learnt a lot about everybody's world. We learnt a lot. I learnt absolutely tons about. I know quite a bit about Azure, but like working with all the vendors, that was just amazing to just work with everybody and learn so much about other products as well, that sort of, and things we could do. So it opened up so many doors.
Hello, Mehmet Batmaz, University of Greenwich. I have a question around, so you've moved 31 odd applications into Azure. I assume a lot of them are native SaaS offerings, so they're customized applications that you probably, I think you mentioned Scientia earlier.
Yep.
We use Scientia, we customize it to a large extent. So how's it been managing customized applications in the cloud? Because I assume you still have to kind of, you know, upgrade them and patch the servers and so on and so forth. So has that been a challenge? Has that changed much from doing it on-prem?
No. We're just getting ready to do our student records double upgrade at Christmas.
Okay.
It's not going to be any different, but it's a little bit different. But now, because we've been there now since April, it's not going to make it any different really. We same timescale, same people are going to do it. Some of those I know where you're going with your question, because the ones that were most customised were the more difficult ones. Some of these systems were easy to move, but the customised ones were really quite tricky. And we've, you know, you learn a lot of lessons from that as well.
Thank you very much.
I've got two. One, do you know how much you spend a month? And secondly, how did you manage the integration layer? If you kept part of it on-prem while you were doing the migration, how did you manage that?
Yeah. So if I take the last bit first, the integration layer. So we took those over a few days, because we'd started off, we were moving them like quite separately. I really don't know how we got to be at that point, but we kind of realised, and we moved them within a few days, sort of thing. So we did our integration hub talks mainly to our student record system. So those were the two that we moved as close as we could. There was a bit of performance whilst one was still on premise and the others were in Azure, but we kind of minimised that and just moved the ones really close together, and we just had to live with it for a little while. And we tried to do it at like non-peak times as well. We tried to time all these moves around when it wasn't busy, but that was the most tricky, the student record system and the integration hub, and moving those and the time to do that. We were going to do them at a weekend, but because of those challenges we couldn't, so we tried to minimise where we could disruption to the university. So we did a lot of this work over the weekends, and that was the other thing, that the power of teams and what teams can do, all at risk. I've got them working, over weekends. They're coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning. We finish at 7 o'clock at night. We're still all emailing at night and talking. We were just living and breathing it all the time. So that was the integration piece. We did them as close as we could. On the costs, I can't sort of say what we're paying per month. A big challenge for us were actually to understand those figures, sort of thing, to be able to, when you look at some of the Microsoft stuff, it's quite hard to understand. It's not my area. I don't look after it, thanks. But, the team that are now looking at it have really got their head around it, kind of thing, and we're now in that world of just managing that and getting it to where we need it to be. And, some things, we've managed to bring it down quite quickly. Some of the things are just quite easy. It's like turning off some of your test systems, turning off your dev systems. We're doing sort of tagging and stuff. I'm going to get really out of my depth here, but we are doing more work now to sort of bring that consumption down. The other side of that is, and where we want to be, is that we can cost every application. So we can, we're going to be in a world we can see what everything's costing us, and that makes like an interesting conversation then with our business users, sort of thing. And it's interesting when we start to do new projects, because everything we do now, when we're going to do a project, we've got to factor in the Azure costs, got to be able to estimate them and sort of factor them into projects, because we can't just keep taking like these hikes in costs because our budget's set. So.
James McCaffrey to UCL again. Great presentation, Alison. Thank you very much. Could you say a few words about the kind of termination conditions? So, the length of the contract that you signed up to, and the arrangements that you have for when it comes to term, and how you might switch or not.
For Azure?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've not even considered it, to be honest, at this time, because we're just into Azure, sort of thing. We're just now looking at sort of the, we're managing that sort of thing. So we haven't done that.
Thank you.
I think it looks like we've probably run out of questions for the time being, and that's perfect timing, because I think we've just got to the end of the session. So if I could just ask you to put your hands together and say thank you to Alison.